whether cesarean birth was your plan and whether you had an emergency cesarean, recovery is so important. And there's lots of different things that I've experienced both with my own clients and with friends and from a medical perspective in my job that have helped mums when it comes to cesarean birth recovery. So as a follow-up video to my last cesarean birth video, here are my top tips that you might not already have heard of. So tip number 1 is to bring a pillow with you to splint when you have to cough or sneeze over your abdomen or your incision site. You might also find this helpful for the journey home when you're going to have your seatbelt crossing over that site itself, and having a pillow between you and the seatbelt can make for a much more comfortable journey home. The next is 2 tips combined. The first one being to remain in your maternity wear so it goes up over your bump, over your incision site for those first few weeks when you are going to be quite uncomfortable. Along with that, you might find it helpful to use one of those big, thick maternity pads over your incision site to stop anything rubbing or chafing against that area. The next tip might come as really obvious, but I always recommend my clients have slip-on shoes ready and handy to go after their cesarean birth, because bending down in any way, shape or form is not going to be comfortable for that first while. So think thick-soled, grippy, slip-on Ugg slippers or Crocs, Birkenstocks, that kind of thing. Nothing without with a strap. The next tip is nothing glamorous, but that is to have a little stool or chair that you can bring into the shower with you. Standing for long periods of time might be very uncomfortable in the beginning, and having somewhere where you can comfortably sit down during your shower if you're washing your hair and doing that kind of thing can make for a much more comfortable showering experience. My next 2 tips are for bedtime. The first one is to wear satiny or silky pajamas or nightie. And the reason for that is because as you're getting in and out of bed, that transition or transitions overall postpartum are the most difficult. So being able to slide yourself from a seated position, swivel around and get into the bed makes for much easier getting in and out and those transitions. The next thing is that part where you're going from laying down flat to sitting up. And of course you want to be avoiding using your abdominal muscles in those very early days. So while you can use a nice log rolling technique, it also might be handy for you to tie the tail of your dressing gown or some other kind of thick, strong rope to the end of your bed. These little knobbles like this. Oh, you can't quite see the knobbles at the end here. So that you can actually use that to pull yourself up to a more seated position, whether it's to feed your baby or to get up and go out to the loo. It means you can avoid altogether using those abdominal muscles in those early days. So those 5 tips, quick, easy, but things that you wouldn't necessarily think to have in your postpartum recovery pack. Make sure you go out and buy those bits and pieces now. If you're looking for what my personal recommendations are, make sure and go and check out my storefront that I will have linked in the description box of this video. I'll see you in the next one.